I believe there are many things about the show that I'm passionate about. I think it touches upon universal feelings. So when we talk about the shows about different family structures around the world, and the connective tissue of the narrative is my own experience. But for example, when we talk about older parents, we're actually talking about, this relentless countdown that we all live through, that we're like, what is worth my time? How much longer do I have here? People don't need to want to be parents to want to watch the show, because they will connect emotionally to many of the stories that are in this project.
Not okay.
I got this hoodie. I love it so much.
Oh, did you? Oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. It's my favorite
It's
thing
so
that we made.
wonderful. I'll be
Especially as
wearing it a lot.
Thank you. Especially as a girl dad, it's relatable for sure.
Exactly. I mean, I don't know if you watched the show, but the third episode is about being a girl dad, so it speaks to me.
Funny you say. I started working. I started watching it this week. I'm on episode 2 now. But I'm loving it though so far. It's quite good. When we first originally talked, my plan was to watch it, obviously, last week. But as you know, being a dad, it's like you're lucky enough to get an hour of shows in a day. It's so hard.
I often say that I don't comprehend how people say they're busy if they don't have kids. It's
crazy. Well, it's the same people that when they go, oh man, I'm so tired today, and they don't have kids, it's like, shut your beautiful face. That's enough.
Yeah. Pretty much.
But congrats on the show. Obviously, FYI, we're recording.
Okay.
I just jumping into it. But I definitely want to hear about kind of your fatherhood journey, and I love the idea of the show. I thought it's so unique, and it's beautiful, just the whole idea behind it. Because I think whether you go through surrogacy or have it on your own, I mean, we kind of had not a similar journey, of course, but we went through IVF. So
of course.
it's like you said, in the show, it's the waiting, it's seeing the embryos for the first time. So we kind of like had those emotions going into it. And my wife always wanted to be a mother. That was like her. If she could have a vision board when she was 10, it would be like be a mom, And she was in childcare for quite some time, and she'd teach for close to 10 years. And then I was always the type, which I don't know if between you and Ben, I forget which one was more passionate, or maybe you were equally as passionate about
We
being
were
fathers.
both very passionate about. I often say that being a dad to me was as certain as death has all. Like, I didn't know with who, I didn't know how, I didn't know when, where, but I knew I was going to be a dad. So I vividly remember. I've been with Ben for a really long time, but I vividly remember talking about wanting to become a dad 17, 18 years ago. And it's funny because today I came across this interview I gave 20 years ago when I was hosting a different show. And the last question was, I dream of, and I said kids. So it's something that
Wow.
was very present. But as you well know, the desire to become a parent, the expectations, the anxieties, the
Mhm.
fears, like nothing compares to the real thing. You might think that you're prepared for what's about to happen, but you're not.
Yeah. No, it's so well put. And I think a lot of that has to do with maybe, I mean, every parent's different, every child is different, everything. But I think a lot of it has to do with, like, as parents, we don't typically talk about the good stuff, at least just from my inner circle. Like when
Yeah.
it's always like when we were about to get pregnant, every time someone would say, they'd post on Facebook, hey, congrats. But then you meet them in person, you're like, dude, you're not going to get any sleep. And
Oh, yeah.
dude, you're going to have no time to drink anymore. And there's never like moments where I never hear from parents, hey, 98.9% of it is absolutely breathtaking and beautiful and amazing. But
Yeah.
there's like, less than 2% that sucks. Everyone's always like on the con side of parenting. And I think that's where kind of our expectation before we're even parents, a lot of people are just kind of like trepidatious about it, where they don't want to deal with it. But that's kind of how I was, if I'm being honest. Like, I
Well,
never
I
wanted to have kids.
genuinely, Yeah, I genuinely believe that whatever people tell you before you have kids, you should multiply that by 10. And that's for both sides.
Sure.
I remember a lot of people telling me it's a love that you've never felt before.
Mm,
It's not that it's more or less, but it's just different. And I'm like, come on, I love my grandmother. I love my parents. I had a dog for 16 years. His death was really painful to me. I was like, I know
sure.
what love is, but yes, I knew what that kind of love was. But what Isabel brought to my life when she was born, it's something that I had never felt, and it was the greatest decision of my life. With that said, when people say it's really hard, I vividly remember my mom saying, "I don't know if you're ready for what's about to happen," you know. Um,
Yeah.
and I was like, I've been held hostage. I've infiltrated cartels. I've traveled the world, interviewed terrorists, covered black caimans in the Amazon. Like, I know what fear is. I know what being in a tough situation is, but nothing compares to fatherhood at
Yeah.
all. Because, I mean, just emotionally, it's such a roller coaster that it's been wonderful, but it's interesting to see that your greatest source of happiness is also your greatest source of stress and fear
Mm.
and anxiety. So that paradox, how do you live with both of those feelings? But it has brought me a fatherhood has brought me a sense of purpose that I wasn't really ready for. I think it
Yeah.
was Andy Warhol who said that the goal is not to live forever, but to create things that will outlive you. And
Mm.
I'm not even just saying biologically, but your relationship with that child, what you teach that child and what that child teaches you, it's something that is so much bigger than how finite life is.
Oh, absolutely well put. Yeah. And I think that's one thing I realized, like as a dad, where I never wanted to be a dad. Unlike you
Mm,
guys, where I literally met my wife. Well, she was my girlfriend, obviously, but I met her. We went through the whole thing, and a year down the road, you start having these conversations where you're like, "Hey, your future and 5-year plan," and
yeah.
and then she could just kept talking about kids, and I was like, I never kind of said I didn't want it, but I was like, yeah, but wouldn't it be great just to like just travel the world, the two of us? She's like, yeah, sure, but it'd be better to have a kid. And I go, okay. And I'm like, in my back of my head, I'm like, I'm gonna change her mind. We're gonna go to Italy once. We're gonna go to Spain once. She's gonna flip a switch.
Yeah.
She did not. She went. She doubled down on having a kid, and then I was still kind of indifferent about it. And we went through the whole process of IVF and IUIs, which took, as you guys know, I mean, that whole any process you take, whether it's surrogacy or IUI, it's such a long process and it's emotionally draining for everybody.
It's brutal. It's
It's
brutal.
People don't talk about it enough. I try to talk about it a lot on my podcast and my channel because I think there needs to be more awareness around
Mhm.
that whole community. Because our marriage struggled during this time. It was
Mhm.
3
Yeah.
years in the making for us. And
Mhm.
then during that time, of course, I was on the fence about having a kid. And now I'm kind of like, hey, maybe this is a sign. Like, let's
Mhm.
just live our life. And if it happens, it happens. Let's not dump any more
Mhm.
money or stress into this because it's obviously affecting us. God, was I wrong? Because the second we had 3 IUIs, 2 IVFs, and a partridge in a fucking pear tree. And when we got that call after that third IVF, I cried and did not even know the emotion that I think my tough macho ego was trying to hide. It just came
Mhm.
out and said, "This is all I want now."
Yeah.
And
Uh,
she just found out she was pregnant. That was it. It wasn't, you know what I mean? It was,
yeah.
and that's when I knew I was like, I was wrong about everything. You know?
I think part of what makes it so painful, like people that try and try and try and can't actually become parents, is the fact that the moment you decide to become a parent, you start in a way living in the future.
Mm,
You almost become a dad and become a mom the second you decide to fulfill that dream, or the second you embrace that reality. And once you hit a bunch of walls and obstacles and challenges, I think you start mourning something that's not even here. And I'm not just talking about the child, but I'm talking about that version of yourself that decided to become a parent.
sure.
This show has really connected me to people in a way that's different from my other projects. Just for context, I hosted one of the most watched and influential political debates in Latin America. I've hosted the most watched travel show in Latin America. So I'm used to receiving feedback, and but this time, like, people are just pouring their hearts out and they're writing these beautiful and sometimes really sad stories. I think it's important for me to say that I do believe that people can live full lives, absolutely full lives, without having children. I'm not one of those people that think, oh, if you don't have kids, you don't know what life is. I genuinely don't think it's for
For
everybody.
sure. Yeah.
With that said, I commend and I admire and I feel for parents, I mean, couples, but mostly women that, have their self esteem shattered because
Yeah.
they think they've done wrong. They think there's something wrong with them, and they try and they try and they try. And the truth is, there are no guarantees.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons why I also wanted to pitch this show is because I think there are many ways of viewing what a family is. And I also respect, I recently saw an interview with Jennifer Aniston, and she was like, it was really important for me that the child was biologically mine. I didn't want to adopt. And it's her prerogative. It's
Yeah.
okay as well. But like traveling the world and exploring all of these family structures, older parents and single mothers by choice and temporary families and adoption, it was very clear to me that becoming a father, becoming a mother, like what makes you a parent is if you show up.
That's
Show
right.
up not just physically, but show up emotionally. I have one of your merch, one of your shirts, and I love what it says in the back. It's like it's hard because you're doing it right.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I think
Yeah.
that's the sentence.
If it's
and
hard,
and,
you're
it-
doing
and
it
it's
right.
so
Yep.
beautiful. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's so beautiful. It's not easy, but if that's what you want and you accomplish that goal, it's not going to be easy. It's going to be the hardest thing you've ever done, but it's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful journey.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that's kind of the big motivation behind me starting the apparel brand. I started probably about 6 months after she was born because I was like, there's no way this is not going to be my identity now. Like I'm so in love with the idea of just being a father now. And I think it was Jimmy Carr that said it best. I'm paraphrasing here, but he says, the purpose of life is enjoying the passage of time.
Hmm.
And to me, that really resonated, especially as a father, because you don't realize, especially now she's just turned 2. So you're starting to see these memories pop up of like what she was when a year, when she was born, and the moments that you're in when you're in those moments, whether she's born or her first steps or whatever, you're bursting out crying. It's so beautiful and it's magical. And then a couple months later, there's a big milestone that comes up, and in the back of your head goes those other memories, and
Yeah.
you don't really think about it. And I realized, especially as you know, being a girl dad, they teach you a lot of patience. And
Oh my God. Yeah.
and I needed that. My wife always jokes around saying that if we had a boy, it'd be a disservice to humanity because I needed a girl, because I needed to calm down and I needed to like slow my roll a little bit. And she's taught me so much. And I think that's what I'm starting to realize is just enjoying the moments and
Yeah.
really soaking them in, like when specifically like with technology in my phone,
Hmm.
where if my daughter comes up and I'm working or something like that and she goes, Dada, I stop everything. There is
Yeah.
nothing that a fire on my stove won't stop me from hearing what she has to say, because to her it's the most important thing.
Well, that's one of the greatest lessons that my daughter Isabel has taught me is the fact that kids don't care about who is
Anything.
aware of who's paying the bills, who's aware
Right.
of when she needs to get which vaccine, or who's
Yes.
dealing with the scaffolding of life. Like they don't care what you're afraid of, that what you're going to do in the future, what you did in the past. The
Right.
only thing that matters for them is that you're present, you're
Yeah.
there. And I agree. A lot of people say, oh, don't blink because it flies by. I genuinely don't believe that the first 6 months flew by for me. Like first time parents, two guys, a baby girl, a house full of testosterone, which now I view as like such a blessing and
Yeah.
so incredible, that like the universe, not to sound kumbaya, it knew exactly what it was doing, bringing Isabel into our lives.
Yeah.
But still, like it's, I catch myself complaining and I catch myself struggling, but now I really genuinely savor those moments that you're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah.
Like I get emotional, and sometimes one look, one word. The other day she was dancing. The other day, and each step, you kind of want to freeze that moment.
For sure.
You mentioned technology. It's so easy to be like, I want to film this because I want to remember, and quite
Yeah.
often by filming it, you miss it,
Mm,
because it's gone.
that's right.
Um,
That's right.
it's
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's a big reason why I invested in Meta Ray-Ban smart glasses. I don't know
Interesting.
if
I
you've
don't
looked
have
into
them, but yeah,
you need to check them out. I mean, I'm not wearing them now, but I got them right. And this is not sponsored. I'm just
yeah,
I want to mention
absolutely.
it because like as a dad, I even did a whole YouTube video about the importance of these glasses and similar
Hmm.
glasses where it you can just record everything by saying, "Hey Meta, record video."
Mm.
And I never had
Yeah,
my phone in my hands. And it's also good for them too, right? Because I was also reading an article saying that it's not necessarily you using the phone, but it's the fact of even having the phone in your hand and speaking with a
hmm,
child. They automatically look at that phone as if it's a
a
part of
hundred
you,
percent.
and they think that that's more important than your full attention. And
Well, Isabel started singing now,
how old
and
is she now?
every she's a year and 9 months.
That's right. Yeah,
Yeah, but like
it's
every
so
time
great.
she's singing, I want to send it to my parents and I want to film her. But when I pick
Yeah,
up the phone, she stops.
that's right. Yeah,
So I stopped trying to film it,
yeah.
and because it's a distraction from
Mm-hmm.
that moment.
Yeah.
Um,
Get yourself some smart glasses, man.
I
That's
will.
my biggest thing. I did an entire YouTube video on why dads need these glasses. And
Uh-huh.
because our daughter was the same way, around a year and a couple months, she started singing. And by singing, of course, we mean she's not Celine Dion, right? She's just saying,
No.
"How far I'll go." Like she's singing some Disney
Yeah.
songs or something. And it's just so great because every time you pick up that phone, they know. They're like, "Oh,
Yeah.
you're busy. Okay, I'll stop singing." I feel like that's
Yeah.
what's going through their head.
This
Um,
stage is so fun though. The stage you're
oh
going
man,
through, it's a different discovery like every day. Like Halloween was delightful. Like
sure.
I never cared for Halloween.
Yeah.
It's kind of become my favorite holiday. I'm sure Christmas is going to be wonderful because you start seeing the world around you through their eyes, and you start noticing things that you didn't before and start falling in love with things that you didn't before.
Yeah.
So it's great.
Even like little things, Pedro, I don't know if you could relate, but because you guys are in New York, right?
Hmm.
Yeah. So
We are.
you have a few parks around you, but me,
Oh, a lot of them. Yeah.
right. So I'm in Florida, so we go to our backyard and it's palm trees, it's beautiful. We got no
Ben's
neighbors.
from Florida, so we're there in Anna Maria
Oh, get out.
Island like all the
Sure.
time.
Yeah, I'm in
Yeah.
Tampa, so I'm close.
Yeah.
We love Anna Marie. That's one of
Yeah.
our favorites. And when we go outside and we take a look around, I remember when she was just I don't know, 6 months old or something like that. Um, what really stopped me in my tracks, just in general, about being a dad, is watching her like see birds
Mm.
and butterflies, caterpillars, like just looking around, and you don't realize it, but when you just stop and look at their face, don't look at the centipede or the bird. You look at their face, it's like they saw an alien. It's the most
Yeah. It's beautiful. Yeah.
and it really is beautiful because then you think, "Oh, I'm 40 years old. I don't remember the last time I looked at anything." Like, and no
Mm.
disrespect to my wife. My wife, I don't remember the last time I looked at her like that.
Yeah.
So it kind of made me like rethink how I'm living my life. And now I try to specifically look at my wife, my family, and other things around me like that way. And I want to be more
Mhm.
like my daughter when she sees these things because you never know when it's going to be gone. You never know when the bird's going to leave. You never know when, you know, it's the, I get
It's so
choked up.
interesting. I've
Yeah.
always had this appetite for travel, and it's a practice. It's a phenomenon that has defined not just the journalist I am, but the man I am. And
Yeah.
that sense of awe I felt, when I saw the temples of Myanmar, when I went into, I mean, certain places in the Amazon or Budapest or you name it.
Yeah.
and this is gonna sound cheesy, but bear with me. After I visited 85 countries, and I still love traveling, and I have a new travel show coming up next year, but this journey, the paternal, like the fatherhood journey,
Yeah.
it really has been, it has shaped me and it has changed me more than any place, any conversation, any, reality could have. And I'm very curious to see how I'm gonna be now
Yeah.
traveling. Now that I'm a dad, now that I'm missing, home. I
Sure.
still, I still believe my curiosity is intact, but it has opened up a door that was totally closed before.
Yeah, it's going to be a different beast for sure. And of course, forgive me. Typically, how my I'll leave everything in the description below of your background and bio. I want people to go check you out, and especially your show because it really is great. But if you can give us a quick
Thank
little
you.
cliff notes of kind of how you and Ben maybe started the
Hmm.
surrogacy, the show, how that
Yeah,
all began, and of course,
yeah.
everyone just listening, I'll leave everything in the description below. But
Yeah, it's interesting because when I talk about this project, it's impossible not to talk about both projects in a sense that with a gay couple, there are no accidental pregnancies, so
right.
we everything's planned and it takes a long time and it's expensive and there are lots of obstacles. Nothing is for sure. With that said, I remind myself that regardless of any challenges, we are the part of the first generation that can even have a family like this. Um,
Right.
Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of exploring a lot of realities that triggered my interest. And so, like, if I was curious about psychedelics, I did a show about psychedelics. Or if I was curious about the incarcerated community or sex workers or whatever,
Hmm.
I pitched, and 9 out of 10 times I was able to explore that place, that condition. And when I decided that I wanted to become a dad, and it has a lot to do with not my biological clock, but I was like, I'm getting older. I'm 45 now. It's time.
Hmm.
Then I decided to do shows, interview people, research, about how to become a family, how to start a family. And so we went through the checklist. We thought about adopting. I'm not going to give any spoilers on episode 4. You're going to find out why we didn't take that route. Um, but when I decided to go the surrogacy route, I did a show for CNN Latin America, and I interviewed a lot of surrogates. And surrogacy comes with a lot of stigma. Believe it or
Mm.
not, it's still taboo in most of the world. 97% of the countries don't allow surrogacy in their countries. And because of that, everyone comes to the United States to try to have kids. Not just gay couples, but females that are not fertile or people that go through medical treatments. And so this place became the mecca of surrogacy,
Yeah.
which in a way is a blessing, but in another way makes it all much harder, much more expensive, yada 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 yada.
Sure. And
The
not to interrupt you, Pedro, but you
no.
mentioned because I know I think it's episode 1, if I remember correctly, where you were talking about you visited Italy, right? And it wasn't
Yes,
just
I thought it was important to contextualize the fact
yeah,
that we live in a privileged condition here in America when it comes to surrogacy,
yeah,
because in Italy, for example, since the far right Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni uh, took power, she made my condition a crime. So if
yeah,
Ben and I were there, we could potentially have to pay 2 million euros, spend 5 years in jail. Our international surrogate would never be able to walk into Italy again. So I think sometimes and that goes
take
for
for
many
granted.
things, including,
Yeah,
yeah, even with fatherhood, there's so many things that we take for granted every
yeah,
day. But contrary to what most people think, it's not easy to become a surrogate. Less than 3% of women that decide to become a surrogate are approved. They have to go through like 5 psychological evaluations. They have to have had 2 healthy gestations. They need to be employed. They need to be financially independent. They prefer if they have a solid marriage, a family of their own. And I understand where the stigma comes from. For a few decades last century, a lot of women in poor countries and marginalized communities. They were desperate. They needed money, so they had these baby farms in India,
Yeah.
Nigeria, Nepal, and it was very abusive. But nowadays, it's very different. They make money as they deserve every single penny. They are protected. They have their own lawyers that are paid by the intended parents. Anyway, but long story short, we went through an agency that found us the greatest surrogate anyone could ever hope for. She is, aside from Isabel and my mother, probably the most transformational feminine figure in my life. I have a level of gratitude for Whitney, our surrogate, that I'll never be able to pay her back for what
Mm.
she's done for me. And I want to believe that the bond that we've established goes both ways. I want to believe that she also has a sense of empowerment and mission accomplished, if for lack of a better expression, for the
Sure.
fact that this family, my family, only exists because she was kind enough, generous enough to be a part of this equation. And then I gave you the longest answer ever, but the other
That's it.
project it is the TV show that's called Somewhat Familiar on HBO Max. I pitched to HBO Max. They immediately bought the show. What I think is, I think there are many things that I believe there are many things about the show that I'm passionate about, but I think it touches upon universal feelings. So when we talk
Mhm.
about the shows about different family structures around the world, and the connective tissue of the narrative is my own experience. But for example, when we talk about older parents, we're actually talking about, this relentless countdown that we all live through, that we're like, what is worth my time? How much longer do I have here? Whenever we talk about adoption, we talk about rejection, but we talk about, nurturing. And I think people don't need to want to be parents to want to watch the show, because they will connect emotionally to many of the stories that are in this project. I'm really proud of it.
It's yeah, it is beautiful, and like I said, even though obviously we did not go down the same journey, I think every parent is going to see a lot of value in this because it doesn't necessarily tackle surrogacy as a whole. It tackles parenthood, and we all
Yeah,
have struggles, and we all have kind of fears and obstacles that we have to overcome. And I think for that, we're all kind of bonded into that because it is the most beautiful, stressful, chaotic, amazing
yeah.
thing that you're ever going to do. And I think the more you can kind of surround yourself with like-minded parents that kind of go through these same struggles, it is, I don't
Hmm.
want to say easier, but there is a lot of relatability to,
Hmm.
your show in general and, other things that are out there that people can kind of take a look at. Because sometimes it is kind of isolating, right? Like being a parent because you're stuck in the trenches, like your
Hmm.
kid's crying, you're in the dark, you may be fighting with your spouse because you're sleep deprived and you didn't
Yep.
eat, and all these things kind of coincide with each other. But then those moments that we're talking about earlier, where it's just those beautiful, it makes up for everything. It makes up for
A
all the
100%.
craziness.
But what
Yeah,
what I think you mentioned that it could be isolating, and I totally agree.
yeah,
But at the same time, what I've discovered, like going to so many countries and tackling all of these different ways of understanding families, uh, is the fact that what brings us together is much stronger than what sets us apart. It's a cliche, but we live in a very polarized moment,
sure.
and a lot of people ask me, you are part of an unconventional family, maybe not in New York, but in most of the world.
Hmm.
What would you say to families that don't approve of your choices? I would say give it a try, watch it, because you'll see that our routine is a lot more similar to your routine than you could possibly imagine, and we
Sure.
go through the same emotions and the same anxieties and the same fears. And I think there's beauty in sort of punctuating, weaving through these different family structures, but always finding something in common with them to connect
Yeah.
with them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. And, I think what you brought up is so interesting and such a good point to where not only we're all connected, but like we're all team human. Like we all, that's a big
Yeah.
reason why this podcast called Humanity and Hashtags, so many years ago, because I preach about it at nauseum to my audience, where it's, for some reason, I don't know when it happened. It could be maybe the birth of social media, and now we're maybe a little bit more divided because we're getting fed this negative algorithm and all this bullshit that we
Yeah.
probably shouldn't be ingesting. Uh,
Yeah.
but also maybe it's just like everything combined that's making us so angry and entitled that we think our opinion makes a difference to other people.
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
when I hear you talk about that, and when I watched your show, especially episode 1 where you went to Italy, and that lovely couple over there that is like technically technically their daughter is a
Yeah.
refugee in Italy because of those bullshit laws, and it makes you think, it's like, why is it important to you? Like, what? No matter what country you're in, no matter who you are, like if your kid wants to, if parents want to give their kid junk food all day, who cares? It's probably not the right decision, but you shouldn't
Yeah.
give a shit. It's not your responsibility to make that a law, and especially when something so important as raising a human, and that's just love, man. That's just like, whether it's two guys, two girls, a guy and a girl, they're loving this little human and trying to
Yeah.
raise the best human possible. So who
Yeah.
gives a shit? Like, as long as there's love in that equation, whoever
Yeah.
you are, just back up and mind your business. It's
Yeah.
so
And I
crazy to
like that
think.
we go there on the show.
I love that. Yeah, it was
I,
great. Yeah.
like I genuinely, there are no questions I don't tackle head on. And on one of the episodes, we talk about single mothers by choice. And I never thought I had so much in common with these women that are brave enough to just say, I can't wait anymore. I haven't found Prince Charming. I want to be a mom. But one of the things that connected us was the fact that, a single mother by choice is having a baby, and that baby's not going to have a dad,
Yeah.
and it won't have a male figure. Isabel doesn't have a female figure. She doesn't have a mom, my daughter.
Hmm.
And I like that I don't shy away from sharing how that makes me feel, the
Sure.
things that scare me, and I agree. We live in a day and age in which the algorithm has figured out that back in the day, porn used to keep people online. Now hate keeps people online. I think it was Scott Galloway that said that. And it's true. Like, it's so easy to be critical and to bring no empathy into a post,
Yeah.
without uh, really understanding how that's going to impact not just that family but that child, or that person.
Yeah.
And I'm not sitting here trying to be, Mr. Cheesy and being want bring out the violin, but it's
Sure.
true. I think people are inconsequential quite often when they are that aggressive and they have such strong opinions.
Yeah.
I think I remember one of the lessons my parents taught me when I was very, very young is don't treat others as you want to be treated.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah.
Sayings are hard for me because I was born and raised in Rio. I've been in New York since '99. So things that I
Yeah.
learned when I was a child, I still have to, in a way, translate in my
Yeah.
head.
Well,
But it's basic, yeah.
you're doing great, especially like in the in the series. When I was watching the first couple episodes, I was like, this guy's English is like spot on. And then when you switch to Portuguese, I'm like, who is this guy? This is like, are they dubbing his voice? Because his English is money. So well done.
Thank you. That's
New
a
York, New York
big
will do that to
compliment.
you. New
Yeah.
York will do that. Yeah,
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 we're trying to raise her to be bilingual. I mean, I
yeah.
don't want
Good
to put
call.
it put too much, but I speak to her in Portuguese. Ben speaks to her in English. I am papai, as we say daddy in Portuguese. Ben is dada. So
That's lovely.
it's been interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
my wife is Dominican and Puerto Rican, so we're
Mm.
we're we're about the same route. And I'm actually, my background is Italian, so as we just shat on the prime minister, but but we're also gonna get her Italian as well. We're gonna kind of weave
I
that
love
in. So
Italy. Are you kidding me? It's one of
it's
my
so great,
favorite
and
places on earth.
we were just there last year. Actually, we took her for her first birthday, and that's actually where, true story, she did her first steps in front of the Coliseum, like ever. She
Wow,
walked on her
that's
own.
so interesting because I'm taking Isabel for the first time to Brazil, and I'm a little terrified of the international flight.
Yeah,
But
especially
you
right
know,
now. Jesus.
that's a really interesting cultural observation.
Hmm.
Um, there are certain parts of the world, like the Middle East, for example, and Latin America, in which kids, they're just part of your everyday life. You know,
Yeah,
like they're everywhere. They're in museums and they're in restaurants and they're in places that here people would frown at them.
yeah,
So whenever I go to Brazil, the flight is packed with children,
that's
and
right.
it's not a big deal, you know. But
No one cares.
here,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, there are pros and cons.
sure,
Kids can be, mainly when they're not your kids, they can be inconvenient and loud and
of course.
obnoxious. Um, but I mean, what else are you gonna do?
I
Like,
know. I know.
to be honest, I mean, Isabel and I go to Florida a lot, and she's good flying 2 3 hours, and most people are very kind.
Yeah,
Like, but
but you're right. I mean, international is a different beast. I mean, when we her actually first flight was Italy. Her first flight ever. That was 11 hours. It was rough. But
wow.
here's a little trick. I don't know if you plan to book it yet, but we just did the red eye, and she slept the whole
Yes.
way. So that kind of helped us a little bit. But also, she was a year. So as they get
Yeah,
older, as you
Isabel's
know,
first
it's
flight was from Hawaii. She was 6 days old. I mean,
oh
that
yeah,
that was an
because
easy feat. Yeah, that was
that's what
easy
I was.
because six
Yeah,
days. I mean, they just poop and sleep and
yeah, it
don't
did.
do much. But
Yeah,
now she wants to walk around. But we bought this thing. I mean, nowadays, thanks to TikTok and
yeah.
Instagram, yada yada yada, we bought this thing that becomes a bed for children on the flight.
I
Have you
got that.
seen it? You must have
Yeah,
seen it.
it's
Yeah.
like a Stoke. That's the brand we use is
Yeah,
Stoke.
you
Yeah.
fill it up. I mean,
Yeah,
we'll
and it
see.
folds out to a bed. Yeah, she loved that. It works well. But yeah,
Okay.
the people that always tell us like, "I can't believe you brought your kid to Italy. Why would you?" I go, "Why wouldn't we?" They go, "Well, they're not going to
Yeah.
remember it." I go, "We will." That's like
Yeah.
saying, "Well, what are we not going to like take her anywhere because she doesn't have long term memory yet?" I mean,
I love that you said that because recently I had to give this talk in the Bahamas. It's like the largest tourism convention in the world, and it used to be in Rosewood, Mayakoba, and it got so big that now they had to go to the Bahamas. I'm saying all this
oh,
because
cool.
it was the first trip that I took Ben and Isabel. No help at all. We didn't have a nanny for 3 months, and that's when that happened.
Yeah,
Um, and it was heavenly. The
amazing.
place I wasn't really impressed by. If it was just Ben and myself, it would have been yet another resort, like a casino or whatever, which is
Yeah,
not really our vibe, but we would have had a good time. Before Isabel, I mean, it was like Alice in Wonderland. There were like these
yeah,
flamingos in a cage, and she was just like in awe. Like
nice.
the
Yeah,
pool, she's had never had so much fun in the water as she had like in that situation. Every
yeah,
leaf, every ant, every bug, like, and it's exactly what you were saying. It was a different trip, but it's a trip that was unforgettable. And if Isabel wasn't with us,
yeah,
we would have deprived ourselves from all of these memories. It would have been
yeah.
the two of us, which would have been fine, but nothing compared to this trip. It was incredible.
Yeah, and that's I think the one thing that people do miss. You talk about where if you don't want to have kids, that's fine. But I think the problem with parenthood as a whole is unless you're a parent, you don't get it. But
Hmm.
you're never going to know the joy of it until you are a parent. So like
True.
it's it's kind of one of those weird things where you might not think you want kids. That's fine, but I just couldn't imagine now going through a world where I
Yeah.
don't have her. Like it's just doesn't. There's no festival. There's no trip.
Yeah.
There's nothing that could take me away from having her enjoy it because I think
Yeah.
in some maybe version of this, we're trying to like unintentionally, we're living through their eyes, as you said, but you kind of get to see everything twice. So like if you've been to
Yeah.
Disney on your own with Ben, but now you take Isabel, it's like you've never been
Totally
to
different.
Disney, right?
Yeah.
It's this new magical thing. And that's with
Yeah.
everything. That's with when we go on a walk down the street to get the mail. It's
Yeah.
everything is different. And when I tell that to people, they're like, come on, it's not that good. I go, well, dude, you're never gonna know.
Yeah.
You don't have to do
I
it,
think
and
it
some
was
people can do it, but yeah.
I think it was Jerry Seinfeld that said um, having kids is the greatest spectacle on earth. Is the greatest show on earth, because the second
Yeah.
you have that child, in a way, aside from work and family and food and bills,
You're right.
all you have to do is witness their steps.
For sure.
From physical steps to conceptual steps, like the first school recital, the first
Yeah.
uh, I don't know, date, the first this, the first that. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's ongoing if you're lucky enough. The if
That's right.
life is kind enough to us. I look forward to everything, everything.
Yeah. Yeah. And are you finding it difficult now, obviously, because you mentioned you're going to travel soon? I mean, are you finding it easy to work, more difficult to work, like you and Ben? Or have you guys worked out that perfect formula to where
No,
it's,
it's so hard. It's
yeah.
so hard.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I sometimes I have meetings about future projects. I'm like, what the fuck am I thinking? Like, what
Right.
time am I gonna find? Like, how am I gonna do this? And Ben's family is in Florida. My family is in Brazil. Now we found a nanny we're very happy with, but it's that 9 to 5 thing,
Yeah.
And
It's
if you have a
tough.
child, you know that the day starts at 6:30, and we're lucky. Isabel sleeps full nights. She eats everything. She's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful baby. But
Yeah.
still, it's a full time job. Like, so much
Yeah.
so that there are no weekends from being a parent,
That's right.
ever.
Yeah.
So we're planning, thinking of having another one at some point. But some things will have to change. Like, either we'll have to move somewhere, we'll
Yeah.
need more help. But I keep telling myself that there are many reasons not to have another child, but in my heart I feel like I would regret 5 years from now not having
Not
had
doing it.
another child.
Yeah.
And if we're not blessed with the opportunity of becoming parents again, like, Isabel is more than enough for us.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, in
Yeah.
all ways, in many ways. But when it comes to organizing my calendar, my life, the scaffold of our day to day, as you know, it's really hard. I mean, I look at you. You work out. You host a podcast. Like, I've been having a really hard time finding time for myself.
Yeah.
Like, truly. And this is no recipe, is no suggestion to anybody. I don't think that's a
Yeah.
good thing. I'm trying to organize my life in a way that I find time to do those things. Like, I
Yeah.
haven't been to therapy pretty much since Isabel was born. I don't. I've never been sporty spice. I don't love working out, but I was very, very, very disciplined, and now
Yeah.
I don't know how to be. But I'll figure
Yeah.
it out.
Yeah, it's
I
it's
keep.
definitely
Yeah.
it's a challenge for sure. And yeah, thanks for noticing. I definitely try. I've cut down a lot on everything, as we all do as parents. But the one thing I've kind of fortunate with now is after she turned about a year, her curiosity in the gym is ongoing. So she actually watches me. Like I have this ice bath, so I do cold therapy and sauna and stuff like that. So she watches me do that, and she has like a little play area in
That's
the
so
garage
cool.
gym. And I found ways to kind of not necessarily like add time into the day to do my routine. I've just figured out ways of like that's her learning time. That's her time
Hmm.
to do crafts and play with things. So she kind of look forwards to it. And then it gives me 30, 40 minutes to kind of do my own thing. So I
Yeah,
always try to tell parents like my buddies that are like, how do you go to the gym? And well, I built one in my garage
yeah.
because anything is better
I
than
have one in
nothing.
my building, so yes.
There you go. And, you just have to find the times to do it and then work it out to where it's part of the routine. And I
But come
realized
on.
I know it's
I
hard.
agree with you. I
Yeah.
agree with you. But I find myself sometimes I put her for her nap,
Yeah. You're
and I'm
exhausted.
so tired. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes Ben is traveling and it's just me with her.
Yeah.
Like, I find myself staring at the wall.
I know.
Like, just if I could plug myself on the wall, like, and just like recharge. I'm like, I'm in awe of
Yeah.
people like you that, okay, she's asleep. Let me run to the gym, and then
I
let me
know.
run back. She's gonna wake up.
And I should
But
add, I
you're
should
right.
add to
I'm
this.
not.
Yeah. Well, I should add to this. It sucks every time. Like I don't enjoy it, but I just know that It's not like I look forward to it. I'm just like, "Ugh, I gotta fucking do it
Hmm.
because now I'm at the point to where I've done it for so long, especially now she's over 2, and I'm on this routine 3 4 days a week now. That if I don't do it, I feel like shit, and
Yeah,
that enough is to motivate me to do it. But to your point, not only are you tired, but you're also like you're probably not eating good because
yeah.
she's barely maybe she's having leftovers and you're like, oh, let me just eat that, and that's your fucking meal. Like, so there's so many factors that are like holding you back.
Well,
That's what
I'm
I
gonna say
realized.
I'm gonna say something slightly controversial these days. My
I
parents
love it.
had me when they were 20, 21. They both worked. I come from a lower middle class family, and
Oh
I
wow,
remember
kudos.
asking them. They've been divorced for many, many decades, and I'm like, "How did you guys do it?" You know,
Yeah,
and they had family around, so I stayed with my grandmother, I stayed with my aunt, et cetera, et cetera. But she said a lot of times you guys had to watch TV.
mm,
And I know that the TV our idea of TV today is very different from what I
yeah,
used to watch, like
totally.
Tom and Jerry or He Man or
Yeah,
Thundercats or whatever.
low
Now,
stimulation videos. Yeah,
yeah, there
yeah,
are so many studies that say that Coco Melon, for example, is crack for children, yada yada.
yeah,
But I have to sometimes cook for her. I have to sometimes go to the bathroom. I have to,
yeah. Of
and
course.
yeah, and at those times I allow myself to let her watch a little bit of Miss Rachel or something educational.
Sure.
And in the beginning I felt really guilty, but now I'm like I'm I'm not, and also like on the plane, I'm like, why am I going to
Yeah,
be the source of this torture for everyone if I can just, let her chill for an hour or two watching an iPad. But she
right.
doesn't have her own iPad or anything like that. But back to what you were saying, it's so easy to step back and just be critical and
Yeah,
say, I hear a lot on TikTok and on Instagram. I see a lot of specialists, most of them that don't have kids themselves, and they're like, no screen time ever until they go to college. Period.
right.
Or like people that are like, daycare. Isabel's not on daycare, but daycare is a sin, and mothers should be sued. Like some mothers have to work,
Yeah,
and they don't realize how offensive it can be, and how
for sure.
difficult it is, as we were talking about.
Yeah,
Like people make
yeah.
it work with blood, sweat, and tears, and people are giving their best, and that's all they can give.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, to that point about screen time, I mean, we're kind of in the same boat. We're fortunate to where we both work from home.
Hmm.
So she doesn't do childcare either. And kind of started with, little things here and there, like Miss Rachel when she was older. Now she's at the point to where, thank goodness, we figured out ways to kind of keep her occupied. But yeah, I mean, sometimes I think a lot of people that when they struggle with that idea of the screen time thing, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but, I'm 40. When I was a kid, they used to say TV would rot your brain. My
Yes.
brain's fine. My brain's fine.
Yeah.
So now, is that to say that the shit that we put on TV now is maybe more toxic? Probably. Maybe cognitively, there's some issues of them developing. That makes a lot of sense. There's studies to show. But I think when it comes down to it as a whole, if it's going to stress out the household, it's better
Hmm.
just to do what makes sense for you. Because if you're stressed about, oh, I can't give my kids screen time, well, now your work's going to get affected. Now maybe your
Yeah.
relationship's going to get affected with your spouse, and there's all these dominoes that are falling down in a negative direction. Where
100%.
30 minutes isn't going to kill them, but at the same time, we are very aware of like this is a real thing that's going on with AI and social
Hmm.
media and like the
Yeah.
constant development. It is quite terrifying, especially as a girl
Yeah.
dad. I'm sure you can relate. Where there's just the big thing
100%.
the big thing for me is like as she gets older, letting her understand. I think it was Jennifer Gardner that said this, where she has teens now and they don't have phones and they don't have social media, and they're like, how do you do that? And she's like, well, I tell my kids if they could show me a study where social media is good for them, I'll let them have phones.
Hmm.
And spoiler alert, there's no studies that say it's good for you.
Yeah.
So we're really trying hard to make sure our kid understands as she gets older the pros and cons of everything, and that there
Yeah.
is consequences to eating McDonald's every day. There is consequences
Hmm.
to watching Coco Melon. There is these
Yeah.
consequences that I think as she gets older, if you instill this now, she's
Yeah.
going to make an informed decision as she gets older. And I think that's the thing, because peer pressure is a bitch. I mean, as we know, just us
Yeah.
being
And,
kids,
and,
we
and not
we
to
didn't have those issues.
poeticize
Yeah,
things too much, but I love art, and I live across the street from the Whitney Museum and the Gallery District. And like I see
beautiful.
things on TV now like that. Isabel is really into. Like we're like trying to teach her about Christmas, and so
Yeah.
like we're like watching Christmas movies with her, and I think there's beauty in that as well. Like like music and
For sure.
movies and books, and these are things
Yeah.
that I grew up with, that my parents with no money like actually triggered these interests and passions in me, and it's something that I would like. As you well know, I mean, we can plan all we want, but they are their own person. She might like Formula One, who knows? And
Right.
I'm going to be supportive no matter what she likes.
Yeah.
But I don't feel guilty when I'm not just using TV as a source of distraction. I think there's good content out there that
Yeah.
can be, helpful, educational as well.
Yeah. Yeah. As long as you don't let the TV parent, I think
Yes.
that's the way to go. That's the
Yeah.
way to go. In fact, I'm relating with you a little bit to where my parents, they didn't let the TV parent me, but that was a big part of my life. But I think that also brought out a lot of beauty in my childhood, where like I loved the Ninja Turtles, and that's because I
So do
saw the
I.
movie,
Yeah.
right? So like half my when I was like 0 to 6, Ninja Turtle sleepovers. I was
Yeah.
Ninja Turtles for Halloween. Like so, obviously there's some beauty in that, because you can't just read one book and be obsessed with Ninja Turtles. I watched the shows and I watched the movie and stuff. So I think there is beauty to your point on that. So and also just parenting stressful as a whole. So you just have to do
Yeah.
what's right. Every single couple's different, and that's what I really enjoyed about your show was uh, not only were you able to kind of talk to all these different parents and future parents, but
Mhm.
just the idea of taking parenthood and fatherhood and like you know putting a microscope on it and really
Mhm.
kind of picking apart these little issues I found super fascinating. I'd love to know like how you were able to. Did HBO help you with these interviews? Did you have people in mind that you wanted to talk to? Like, how did that
No,
process
no,
go?
I hog. I'm very controlling when it comes to my work. I'm executive producer. I always work with with the team that I trust. I
Hmm.
have the greatest cinematographer. That's my right hand man. He's also my director. I have incredible editors that I admire so much. And it's interesting because working with this team, it really frees up very valuable real estate in my brain. I don't worry about the photography because he's the best. I don't worry about, but I'm a part of everything, and I genuinely enjoy every step of the way, every part of the process. It's been this one is very different because I always focused on others and focused on other people's experience. And this one, everything's triggered by my own experience.
Yeah.
So I guess one thing that inspired me when I brought the narrative and the structure of the show, of the storytelling, was, we've seen people use different elements of our lives as a trigger for bigger conversations. For lack of a better example, Anthony Bourdain brought food as a trigger to talk about a million things, to
That's
talk
right.
about, racism, war, feminism, whatever it is. And I think in a way, not copying him in any way, shape, or form, but I use family as that trigger. Like
Right.
we jump in this family structure almost like as a bait to have conversations that are bigger than our own. To tell
For sure.
stories that are bigger than our own, and that's why I think people have connected so much because they see themselves and they relate to the feeling that a foster parent that is fostering, like, is adopting a child temporarily, so when that child doesn't need his help anymore, they go on.
Yeah.
And that may seem very far from your reality if you're not a foster parent, but then again, the fear of losing someone, that's very relatable. So I
Yeah.
think that's what we tried to do. And we went to, like we were talking about, TV. And in one of the episodes, we go to Japan and we focus on education. And so Japan is always on the top three position when it comes to the pyramid of education in the world. But at the same time, it's also the highest rate of suicide for kids in the planet. And so, how can those two things
Yeah, be true.
exist
Yeah.
together. The best education, but like so much pressure that they can't handle it. And so I think the answers that I went around the world trying to find for my questions, I think there's a I think they inform people of things that they didn't think they needed. If
Mm,
that makes any sense. I think when you watch uh, how Japanese people view education, I think you'll be inspired by some aspects, but you'll be repulsed by others. And
yeah.
I like that truth, that equilibrium, that contradiction, because I think life is like that. We're filled, with nuances. It's so easy to just face life as a religion or a soccer team, as like I'm on this side or I'm on that side, but then people
Right.
don't talk and they don't learn from each other. And once again, like we're using family as a hook, but we're in this episode talking about listening to each other and
Yeah.
you know.
No, that's beautiful, and I think you brought a good point about just the pressure of it. Like that's fascinating about Japan. I never realized because uh, I think a lot of that has to do with like the pressure that these kids get put under, and similar to
Hmm.
where if you look at households across the world, right? Like even here in America, even though it's obviously not as wild as that, but you talk to girls that were raised in Catholic school.
Hmm.
Everyone
Yeah.
knows they're going to be the freaks when they get older. Like
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of like this thing where you're putting so much control over it, in a world that is out of your control.
$100%.
There is little to. I would even challenge to say there's probably nothing that's in your control. You can only control yourself. That's it.
Yeah.
Aside from, and even that sometimes is out of your control, but more often
Yeah.
than not, you can't control things. And I think the more we kind of put this pressure, we talked about the phones and what your kid should be and shouldn't be. I think if you could just enjoy those little moments, do the best you
Yeah.
can, and show up for your kid, this kid's gonna have a
Yeah.
great life.
I love that. My mother lost her parents when she was like 13 years old, and she always had a
Oof.
really hard time with uh, medical things. She's healthy, she's well, but she never liked to receive results from blood work. Like, and she
Mm,
sort of installed unintentionally that in me. Like, I do two full checkups every year, and I've always been very worried and thankfully very healthy. And it's funny when you decide to like put up a stop sign and say like this cycle ends here.
right.
And so when I take Isabel to the doctor, like I'm Papai is here. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. And she can cry and the vaccine's gonna hurt. But
Yeah.
we're solid. I'm by your side. And I think parenting for me has a lot to do with that way of choosing, of curating what are the traits that I would like to pass on to her, and it's her prerogative to adopt them or not, and
Yeah.
what are the flaws that I really want to protect her from, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so beautiful. Yeah. And that it kind of reminds me of like what I was thinking as we were trying to sleep train our kid because she
Mm.
did great for like the first year, but then when she hit
That's
like 18
hard.
months, it was tough. And
Yeah.
there's all these studies back and forth, and you could go down the chat GPT rabbit hole of what to do. But
Yeah.
one thing we found is like trying these different methods, and then we kind of, especially as they were crying in their crib, you kind of like want every instinct in you is just to grab them and to comfort them and to love
Hmm.
them. But
Yeah,
then
of
also
course.
you're in the back of your head, you're like, oh, but you can't do that because if you coddle them too much, then down the road, yada yada.
Yeah.
And then you're hearing all these conflicting studies. And there's one study that I found that was super interesting, where it talks about there's no it talks about you can't love your kid too much. The only way that the kid is going to have negative effects from cuddling is if it's through your anxiety. If you're trying to heal your
That's
anxiety.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
like if you have all this anxiety and you're like, sweetie, come here, I need a hug. Daddy needs a hug. That's how that kid is going to be fucked up down the road. But if you
Yeah.
could just love that kid genuinely and just want to be there for that kid when they need you, there's no such thing
Yeah.
as too much
There
love.
really is a thing of like the energy when it
Oh,
comes to kids, mainly the ones that don't speak yet. So it's a
yes.
nonverbal dynamic.
Mm,
Um, the confidence you have, and I'm no specialist, I'm not teaching anyone how to sleep train. I think it was one of the hardest things so far, and she sleeps great, thank God.
yeah.
But the confidence with which you bring her to the crib,
Mm,
it has to be genuine.
Yes.
You can't fake that confidence.
Yeah.
Like, because the child almost, I'm going to get bashed for comparing a child to a dog, but almost like dogs, they feel, they sniff, they smell that fear,
Oh, they
you
know.
know? So
They know.
sometimes working on yourself is much more important than working on the kid.
Yeah, they know. And this is not a far fetched idea either, Pedro. Let me tell you why. Because when you're upset and you try to fake it, Ben knows, right? Like
Yeah,
this is so we all kind of have this instinctual. It's built in our DNA. Like we know we could pick up on cues and things like that. So when they're really young like that, we don't think they have that capability. I think it's even heightened more because they're always in flight or fight mode when they're that
yeah.
young, right? Because they don't know what the fuck's going on, like new
Well, it's
colors, new
pure
scent.
instinct. Yeah,
Yeah. So I think they're living off that and they're relying on you, this perfectly good stranger that's been with me from
yeah.
day one. I'm entrusting in you. So if you're having a bad day at work or if you're fighting with your spouse and you bring that into their bedroom and in the crib, they're going to
Totally.
sleep like shit. And that's one thing we realize is, going back to like that old saying that our parents used to say, never go to bed angry. That's true for a lot of things and not just with your
Yeah,
spouse, but with work and just leave it all at
yeah.
the door. At 5 p.m., 5:01, no emails are
I love
important.
that.
Like
I
just
love
leave it
that.
at the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
I'm
look,
proud of that. Yeah.
thank you, man. Well, listen, I've learned a lot from you. I've learned a lot from your show. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to finish it out. So I can't believe we're at an hour already. Maybe you can come back on and we could do a round two.
I
Because
would
this was
love that. This
this was
was
great.
such a gift. Like I loved talking to you. I could talk to you for another
I
week,
appreciate
and
it,
I
man.
hope we stay in touch, and maybe our beautiful daughters can connect in
That would be
Florida
great.
or in New York.
That'd be great.
Um,
Yeah, I just missed you in New York. We were up
Congrats.
there. We were up there a couple months ago, actually, for work. When
Yeah.
I had a client up there and took her to the city, and yeah, we did all types of crazy stuff. It's just as beautiful as a city as I remember. It's great. A lot of
Yeah.
flaws, but it's so
True. I mean, the
so
good thing is you don't have to choose one. You can experience both.
do
And
both. Yeah,
honestly, I mean, you don't need this compliment, but you're a great, this is going to sound like a pretentious term, but conversationalist, and your daughter is very lucky to have you as a
thank
dad.
you,
I'm
Pedro.
sure you've heard this before, but it's easier for me having the distance to tell you that than for you being in your own body, in your own
Yeah,
mind to acknowledge that.
I
But
appreciate that.
it's
Well,
awesome. Thank
you
you.
as well. You as well. And no, I appreciate the compliment. I'm enjoying your work, and I can't wait to look at your other stuff as well. I have my wife translate a lot of your stuff in Latin
Yeah.
America, so I'm gonna keep consuming it, Samantha. So just keep up the good work, and best to Ben and Isabel. We'll definitely stay in touch for sure.
Thank you. I'll talk to you
All right,
soon.
Pedro. Thanks, Pedro.